Dr. Rena here. I'm a dental specialist and founder of RW Perio, located at 75 Harley Street. Welcome to my podcast, Life and Smile, where we talk about everything dental, lifestyle, business, and much more. Every episode, I'm joined in conversation with a specialist expert in their chosen field, who give us a behind-the-scenes glimpse into their daily regime, career turning points, and an insider look at what they can't live without. As a businesswoman myself, it's so inspiring to hear how people have built their careers and shattered those glass ceilings. So let's get the conversation going. Welcome back to our very latest episode of Life and Smile. Today, I wanted to give you a first-hand insight into the world of digital and tech. It's a subject I've been particularly passionate about, especially when building our specialist clinic on Harley Street, as it's all about using the latest cutting-edge technology and being one step ahead. For our latest guest, I don't know how we've avoided each other for so long, as London is such a small place, but we've finally crossed paths, and I'm delighted to bring her to Harley Street. Having worked in journalism across the global media industry, starting her career at the Evening Standard as social media editor, before going on to work as the digital team at Harper's Bazaar UK, and most notably launching Vogue Scandinavia as digital editor in Stockholm. But she's now landed back in London and has taken the helm as digital editor at Hello Fashion. This is, of course, Natalie Salmon. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
So you're renowned for empowering women in tech and founder of The Modems, which is such an amazing platform, and we have probably so much to talk about. So let's start from the beginning. What was the starting point? Take us for the start of your journey.
I mean, it's funny because my sort of journey into journalism, I think I was one of those people, my parents, my mother's Brazilian, my father's English, and my mum had always pushed me in this really sort of academic path. I was never like, I could be a writer. It was always like, no, you have to do something serious. So I did politics at university.
Right.
And then when I left, it was, my whole 20s and early 30s have been defined by these like crazy events like, the pandemic. But when I first came out of university, it was that recession.
Right.
So you'll know exactly how.
Yeah.
And it was really hard to get a job. And I sort of like got out of university being like, I've got a 2-1, I'm going to be fine in politics, everyone's going to hire me. And the only job I could get was in recruitment.
Right.
And I did that for 3 months. And I was hands down the worst recruiter of all time. I would specifically tell people not to go for jobs. I'm like, I just don't know.
Oh, no.
Because I'd be like, oh, no, you shouldn't move your family 2 hours away. What would your wife think? Genuinely, I was awful at it. And I really didn't enjoy it. And I remember thinking like, I can't spend the rest of my life doing something that I don't enjoy. This is not what life is about.
Right.
I did not work so hard, like my entire way through school, 4 years of uni, to do something that I just don't like.
Yeah.
So I remember what I actually thought, and again, I had a lot of sort of self-limiting beliefs. I was like, well, I'd always liked fashion, but I was always like, okay, well, we did politics at university, so what does that translate into? And I sort of thought I could be a news presenter because it kind of tied in with politics and it was journalism, and I kind of wanted to go into that area. Yeah. So a friend of mine, he was like an agent for Claire Balding, and I was like, how did she get into presenting? And he was like, well, the best course, you should do a course in journalism or like a master's in broadcast. So I did a master's at City University in broadcast journalism. And during my degree, I found that like my favorite module was the online journalism module. Like it was a small part of the degree, but I remember it was when Facebook was taking off. It was when like Twitter was like, just everything was sort of nascent at that time. And I remember being like, this is so exciting. And, a lot of people had started blogs and stuff like that. And I was just noticing, I was like, this is where it's at. This is where it's going to be. So the first job I applied for afterwards, I went into Evening Standard as their social media editor. And it was funny because most of the people from my degree went into these sort of broadcast jobs. And I was like, no, I really want to do this. I want to be in social media. I want to be in digital. Yeah. And then it went on from there. So I was at Evening Standard magazine. I was their first ever social media editor, which is
that's incredible,
crazy actually, because it was like I almost felt it was running everything. And you were doing all the video interviews. And I remember I just got my first job, and I was doing like video interviews with like Liam from One Direction, being like, this is so great. How did I end up here? I felt so lucky. But I remember that was really, a steep learning curve. And then I went on to work on the digital team at Harper's Bazaar.
Right.
And then after that, Vogue Scandinavia. And meanwhile, I've always had this like really keen interest in technology and gadgets. Yeah. Sorry, I feel like I'm going to cannibalize your next question. Or are you going to ask me about that?
No. I was just going to ask you actually, with the Evening Standard, that was a completely new space that you entered, and you were one of the first persons for them to this particular role. I mean, that must have been interesting because you were kind of, it's a new role. Did you find that you could mold it into sort of what you wanted to do? Were you almost researching, exploring platforms that would work and techniques that would work? So it must have been quite a creative role initially.
It was very creative because nobody really understood what social media was. So no one really understood like what is best practice. Like now, you'll look at like CNN and they have a team of 6 people just for Snapchat.
Exactly, yeah.
But back then it was like, we'll get the intern to do social media. That's literally the time I started. It was very, very early. So you were allowed to, it was almost like, there was so much more experimentation, and it wasn't like, it wasn't as much of a business as it is now. And I'm really happy that I had those kind of early years of like, because you just learn so much. You're always absorbing information, and you're like, what works well on YouTube. I always say that like social media, it's like having 5 kids. You love them all equally, but you have to treat them very different in order for them to flourish and grow. So it's like the same, just posting the same things on like Facebook and Instagram. It's not going to work.
No.
You've got to do it differently. And I know I learned so much at that job.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And then I guess with your interest in digital, you mentioned you'd always been interested in when Facebook was starting off, Twitter, you could tell like this is where the future is, and this is going to be big and people are going to be interested. What is it that initially like drew you to it? Was it the fact that have you always naturally had a inkling to enjoy technology, or what was it that you liked about it?
I mean, I think I've always had an interest in technology. Like I remember my parents were really worried because from age like 4, which is when I got a computer, I would sit in front of the computer the whole time. To the point, I guess, maybe I'm not that unique, give kids like a shiny toy or a Game Boy, they'll play on it all day. But my parents were like, you were always obsessed. And I remember when I was 7, I've always been a very like girly girl. I was never a tomboy. Right. I was never that cool. I love my Barbies and stuff. But when I was 7, I really, and this is actually like what I think defines like, why I started the modems, but also where my interest in technology and, STEM comes from, was my present that I asked my dad for when I was 7 years old was a remote control car.
Wow.
Now, I was obsessed with like the idea of getting a remote control car, and I was like, oh my God, I can't wait to play with it. Because I saw, but I grew up in South America, right? It was like, it wasn't even cool to have a remote control car. It wasn't like, being a tomboy was cool. It really wasn't. So my dad gave it to me at Christmas in front of like my extended family members, and I burst into tears because I thought, I was like, oh my God, everyone's going to find out that I want a remote control car. And, so I like hid it in my room, opened it. I was really happy to get the toy. Yeah. But I was just so embarrassed because I just didn't want anyone. It sounds so ridiculous now. My dad said, I was so sad. He was like, because you only wanted to play with it in your room. Right. Because you thought you'd get teased for like wanting this toy, which is for boys. He said, and my dad was like, the saddest thing is I went to the toy shop to find a remote control car that you would like. Right. So I was looking for like a pink one or a purple one. Yeah. They only had blue, dark blue or orange. So he got me the orange one because it was the closest thing he could get to like pink. Yeah, yeah. And he was like, it's not fair. He was like, of course, it's a fun toy. Any kid would want to play with that. And you exactly. did. He was like, but you didn't feel like it was allowed. And I always think like, I don't know. I think that's kind of the point of the modems. I'm sure there's a lot of women. You don't have to be, and I don't have anything against like, gamers. I love Comic-Con and like, but I feel like this whole, industry, like you can only like tech if you're like a super geek or that kind of like, and I love tech. Yeah, anyone can. And I love tech, fashion as well. Yeah. Like it shouldn't have to be like so assigned. And obviously, it goes without saying, gender roles. Like women can be very interested in tech and technology stories. Yeah, that's amazing. And so tell us, when did you start the modems and how's it going so far? So it's nearly like 3 years ago now. Essentially, I had heard this story. So when I got to Harper's Bazaar, I noticed that Vogue had a tech page and we didn't.
Yeah.
So I thought it was really important that we did that. And actually, I had such amazing support from my editor-in-chief at the time, who was Justine Picardi, who's a woman I have an extraordinary amount of respect for. She was like, yeah, go for it. So I had like an online column and print called Techcessories, like a
right. Yeah.
print column.
Nice. Yeah.
So it was I didn't come up with that name. I wish I could say I had. But yeah, I was doing that, and I was always looking for like good stories we could put in the magazine. And there was this story, and I remember it was about women in Wales were being given VR headsets during labour to calm them down through labour. And I was like, this is a story that I find extremely interesting, that all my friends would find interesting, even my girlfriends that are like, oh, I'm not that interested in tech, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was like, all my girlfriends would want to read this. Why isn't it not on Wired? It was like on one BBC story and, you know, couldn't really find it anywhere else. I was like, why isn't this on Wired or TechCrunch? And I remember thinking, okay, well, this isn't really right for the readers of Bazaar, but like this story deserves to be published, or my friends deserve to, you know, read about stories like this.
Yeah.
So that was actually the impetus to be like, you know what, like I want to write more tech stories. I can't put them all on Bazaar. They need to live somewhere. They can't just go on my Instagram.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, because I guess people who follow me might not care about that, might not care about a story like that. But I was like, it does deserve space. And actually, two of my best friends were like, you should just start a website.
Yeah.
And I was like, why is no one writing about this? And they're like, well, why don't you write about it? You should just start one. And I was like, I can't do that. No one will read it. And they were like, yeah, but if you care about this, then there must be other people. And they were like, we think it's cool. And we never would, you know, have before you showed us this. So yeah, I started it then. That was my first story. And yeah, now it's built up. We've got volunteer writers.
Amazing.
And yeah, I'm really proud of it. And I'm really proud of the content we put out. And the whole point was, it was never meant to be just a female focus, but it's really turned into, I've realized that there is a huge gap and there's a huge space for women who are interested in technology stories, and nothing out there really existed.
Yeah, I mean, I love the platform. You've definitely made tech sexy for women and made it, you know, everything applicable for everyone. So I think it's great. So you've obviously had such an interesting journey so far, and you've had lots of opportunities to work with tier one titles across the board globally. But everyone needs inspiration. So for you, is there an editor? Is there a mentor that you've always turned to? I mean, do you use your family for inspiration? How do you, what do you use in terms of inspiration to do so well?
I mean, one of the first entrepreneurs I ever met early on in my career was someone called Vivian Wong, and she's the founder of Little Moons.
Right. Yeah.
She's been a great source of inspiration and a really kind friend. You know, I really admire someone who I was lucky enough to interview, Anastasia Seablom, who was CEO at Quintessentially. That's someone that I call up for advice. I'd say to everyone, get a mentor if you can. You should always, you know, we can always look up to people. And I'm so flattered now when I get emails from people who want to intern for me or at my magazine, and they're like, yeah, I'd love to work for you. I admire what you do. I'm like, oh my God, that's so cool. And I try to respond to everyone's emails because I'm like, I want to help as many people as possible.
That's amazing. Because
I remember feeling right at the start of my career, I was like, you know, where do I go? Who do I ask for advice? Help? But yeah, I'd say those two. I mean, there's countless women I admire, you know, just professionally. I think Whitney Wolfe Herd, the founder of Bumble, is somebody I admire tremendously. Emily Weiss, the founder of Glossier. You know, I think those are the kind of women that if I could have like even 1% success of, you know, the kind of success they've had. And they've just built their business in a very clever, very smart way.
Yeah, no, I completely agree on the mentor. I think it's nice having someone ahead of you who can like sort of show you the way, guide you along. How do you pick your mentors? Because I mean, with me, it's a balance of having someone who's super experienced and way ahead, but also someone who's just a few years ahead who can actually remember the journey and guide you. And you know, so sometimes when people ask me, oh, I want to get into dentistry, I'm like, actually, I'm not probably the right person to ask because I did that quite a while back. So this other person might be useful. If you want to get into perio, I might be the right person. But so I think when you choose your mentors, like, does it just happen naturally, or how do you find the best people to connect with?
I think actually, you know, there's a lot of skills that are transferable. So it doesn't have to be exactly the same as what you're doing.
Right.
I actually think that sometimes it's just if you're building a business and somebody's built an incredible business, there's a lot you can learn from them.
Right.
And actually, you know, truth be told, a lot of my advice I get on a day-to-day basis, I get from 4 of my best friends who are in the industry who are exactly my age. We have this WhatsApp group called, it's random, it's called Nice Dinner. And it's myself, the CEO of JS Health, the founder of Cultural Influence. These are all like 4 of my best friends. So Paula Anton, Hermione Olivia, Lily Worcester, the beauty editor at Tatler, and then Roxy Nafouzi, who's the manifestation coach. And we have this group called Nice Dinner, and every single day we're asking each other questions like, "Oh, how do you build that? Do you know a good photographer?"
Amazing.
So I'd say like lean on your network,
right,
as much as leaning on a mentor. Like, you know, always be asking each other. You know, people are so happy. I think nice people are, but people are always happy to help each other. You know, and it's really nice, like, when you do make friends in your industry. And none of these girls do exactly what I do.
Yeah.
I'd say the closest is probably, you know, Lily. She's in magazines as well, but we've got completely different jobs. Like, I'm digital editor and she's beauty editor. But I'd say, like, you know, find a network and rely on that network and use your network wisely. You know, don't always be asking for favors. Yeah. But, you know,
help each other.
I
think it's more fun that way as well.
So
I think
much more fun.
So as a favorite with street style photographers, you are known for always looking incredibly effortless, polished, minimal yet classic edge. How do you make it work? Because I know you're constantly out and about, traveling, you've got a demanding lifestyle. Do you have any like hacking rituals that we can get any tips on ahead of like business trips, for example, or any tips and tricks that you can help the listeners with?
Well, I'm glad that you say it's effortless, or it looks effortless, because it's not. No, I'm trying to think. I think in terms of style, I buy a lot of stuff in like charity shops. But I'd say like, for the, you know, woman on the go, which I definitely am. I don't have time. I don't have time to spend all day like getting my makeup and my hair done. I so wish I did. You know, even just an extra 10 minutes would be great, because I'm normally like, you know, if I'm heading to like an advertiser event or something, I'm going straight from the office. But I'd say the best is plan the day before. I always have a mini makeup bag. And I mean, one of the things that I've heard, I mean, I don't do this so much myself, but the reason that, you know, models, they always wear all black when they travel a lot is because they said, my younger sister's model, it's like you can shove it all in your suitcase and it all match. That's why.
You don't have to think about it.
Exactly. But I think actually I do, if I'm going to like fashion week or something like that, I plan my outfits in advance, make it look like more stress-free. If I know I'm going to an event from the office tomorrow, I try to literally like always pack a bag with my outfit for the next day. I mean, it sounds pretty simple, but even down to like makeup, accessories, jewelry, I think about it the day before. I would be lying if I sat here and go, oh no, this just happens. It does not.
So planning is the key.
Planning
Organisation
is key.
and planning. Nice. So obviously we're in different industries, but there's lots of links and overlaps between the two. And I've always had an interest in tech. I think it makes your life so much easier, efficient, and it makes it more enjoyable and on a day-to-day basis. And just simple things like I'm wearing my iWatch right now. I'll have my sleep app, which helps me record my sleep and ensure it's optimal. For you, like on a day-to-day basis, are there any items that you kind of swear by that you would not be able to kind of live without now, like on a day-to-day basis?
Actually, I got a Lumia alarm clock.
Right, yeah.
I love that. I get sent a lot of gadgets to review.
Right.
So, and I'm going to be so annoyed at myself now. I've forgotten the name of there's this alarm clock, which is a coffee machine.
Ooh.
That makes the mornings really
amazing.
that makes the mornings really enjoyable.
How does that work then?
So it like makes your coffee just as you set your alarm. It's so clever, and it looks really chic as well. I'd say on a day-to-day basis, you know, I really like when I'm working or when I'm writing an article, I like listening to music. My Alexa has changed my life.
Right, yeah.
I'm awful to my Alexa. I just love barking orders. I'm just like, play this. I can't believe I can't believe I ever used to get up and press a button.
How things have changed.
But yeah, I mean, I love the fact that you're interested in tech. Like, I can tell when I've come and visit to get my teeth cleaned. It's like those screens above the bed. I was like, this is so cool. This person is so on my wavelength, because your whole facility is like so high tech. It's so my vibe.
Oh, thank you.
No, I love it.
Yeah, we've tried. I think it's important. There's an expectation to be up to date and to make the most of technology, and even dentistry. To be honest, lots has changed. Like now we use digital X-rays. We don't use a traditional injection. We use something called a wand, which is like a computerized needle. So it's actually
that's
more
great, because I'm so scared of needles.
Yeah, and there's no need to be, because I mean, I get patients coming in saying, "Why is my dentist not using that?" And I say, "Well, I don't know. They should be. It's literally painless, and it's again making the most of technology. We use WhatsApp Business with our patients. I think I can't really imagine running the business without having that technology. We've also got our perio school, so we've got a teaching academy. So everything is kind of tech based. We've got
it's like your when I go to yours, it reminds me of, you know, that scene in the new Willy Wonka where it's like they're in that white room.
Oh, nice.
That's what like in a good way.
All the treats are there. Yeah,
it's a vibe.
So yeah, no, and like in here, for example, we're in the Peri school room. We've got the way we've done the tech is AV over IP technology. So basically, if I'm doing a surgery in the other room, the students can watch it here live. I can talk to them through it. So it just enhances learning. It's about making it more fun and more effective. So yeah, I mean, technology has changed. Do you feel like, from where you stand in your place, like do you feel like it's changing quite quickly, technology, or has it come to a plateau? Or
I feel like in terms of, I'd say the most like relevant for, if we're talking about for magazines, you have to be so abreast of the latest social media trends all the time in one way, and I guess that is kind of tech in one way, like, you know, TikTok.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember saying to an editor of mine, I'm not going to say which one, but I was like, we should definitely get a TikTok. And they're like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, this is going to be huge because, you know, you see where the trend goes, and they're like, oh yeah, but we can't monetize it yet. And I'm like, that is not the point.
No.
The point is you need to be there first, because brands will come onto it. They will want brands to start advertising. And of course, now TikTok's reaching out to all of the major publishers, you know, making partnership deals, making it very accessible for publishers to be on the platform, because why? They want brands to be on the platform. Of course, they want to make money. And I think it is, I mean, it's a genius platform. I'm like not funny, so I can't be on there. I'm not a good dancer either. But
I'm not on there either.
But
it has its place. Yeah,
it has its place.
Yeah,
and I think probably me and you, we should be on there.
Yeah, we probably should. Yeah,
we should. It's just like there's so much other things to do.
You have to. I feel like sometimes you have to pick and choose as well.
I believe that. I believe that you should. You know, there's some platforms, like if, for example, if you're an interior design business, you should be probably looking at Pinterest, Instagram, maybe TikTok. You know, if you've got something relevant to say. Maybe you don't need Twitter. You know, if you're a different kind of brand, journalists, they should all be on Twitter. You know, it depends what you're building, who you are.
Exactly.
But
understanding the platform. And I feel like sometimes it's literally a full-time job. So if you're going to do it well, you need that time to dedicate it. So if you've got like 5 to 6 children rather than 2 to deal with, you want to give it the right amount of attention. So.
But and in other ways, I mean, technology, I'm always blown away by how quickly brands and you know, different companies innovate. Like, I don't know if you saw, but yesterday Dyson, they released the Zone headphones. Have you seen these?
No, I haven't. No.
Okay, so they're headphones, and they have a mouth purification system here.
Oh my god!
They're
Dyson are doing everything now.
Yeah, Dyson. It's so Dyson of them.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to be one of these products that no one even realized they needed until they have it. You know, a bit like the iPod. Amazing. Everyone's like, why would I need such a practical device where I don't have to carry CDs?
Yeah.
And then you know, all of a sudden everyone wants one. The same with the iPad. No one realized. I think Dyson's kind of, you know, they're really cutting edge at the moment. They're one of the companies I admire the most, actually, because they're really trying to, like, you know, see where they can push it. But this is actually their first venture into headphones. So yeah, it's got like an air purification system. Yeah.
Oh, right. Wow.
It's good for city dwellers like us.
Yeah. So, I mean, technology is great, of course. But do you feel like sometimes it can be disruptive in any form? Like, obviously we see the thing about social media and all of that and mental health, but just generally, do you think you can get too hooked on technology, or not really if you use it wisely?
I mean, it's funny, right? Because obviously I am a digital editor, and I do believe in the power of social media. I think if you're a brand and you're not on social media, you're not using a free marketing tool.
Right.
But I mean, I haven't looked at anyone's stories in 4 years.
Wow.
I don't look at other
Oh my
people's
gosh.
stories. It's so weird. But it's because I realized, having worked in digital and on social media for such a long time, I realized that every time I looked at friends' stories, I was like, I either felt bad, like I was missing out. Why wasn't I invited to,
Right.
my friends' drinks? Do they not like me anymore? So for me, that's how I kind of keep my distance. I upload
Okay.
stories because
Yeah.
I realize it's important.
Yeah.
I look at other brands just to see, the competition in terms of how it relates to my own work.
Right.
And by that, I mean work for the magazine. And I'll look at the technology companies ones. But in terms of other people,
Right.
I don't know. Because I just think it's, I do think people get really hooked. There's this
Exactly,
thing called doomsday scrolling where people
Right.
are just scrolling.
Yeah.
When I'm at supper, I'll put my phone away.
Yeah.
I literally
Yeah.
won't pick it up. But again, it's because I'm in the position where I get to be, or I am on my phone all day for work.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or I'm looking at the internet all day for work
Yeah.
and looking at stories all day. So when I
You want
leave
to
it,
switch off. Yeah.
I want to switch off.
Yeah.
And I do think actually there is danger, and I think it's undeniable, and we write stories about this on the modems all the time. It is absolutely undeniable that social media is one of the biggest causes of poor mental health in young women. The comparison. I'm so happy I grew up without social media and Instagram. I'm sure you probably feel the same.
Yeah,
because
I
I
do.
don't know how a 13-year-old deals with seeing pictures all the time, having to compare themselves all the time.
Yeah.
And I think that these are the stories that I find so interesting. And it's part of the, it doesn't
Definitely,
mean we hate technology,
No,
but you
no.
have to understand the impact that
Yeah.
social media has.
Yeah. No, I saw the quote on the modems actually, and heard recently that 29% of people don't edit their selfies.
Only 29%.
Only 29. That's worrying as well. So it's
It's really like, I loved that article actually. That was about, people using Facetune, and that I think we published that when Facetune first came out. And if you look at that, you realize it's actually terrible. You start to realize how many people use Facetune.
Yeah.
People all start looking the same. People start requesting the same plastic surgery, so
Right.
they all look the same. And I mean, it's hard not to be affected by this.
Of course, yeah.
It's so
You're
hard.
constantly seeing it. It becomes,
Yeah, it becomes normal. And if you feel like everyone else looks perfect, and they don't even look perfect, they're using an app. So that's why I think it's really good to talk about, have open discussions.
Definitely.
And I really admire the influencers or bloggers who admit to what they get done.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
I'm
Yeah. Technology.
yeah, technology. Is that mine? I put this on airplane mode. Sorry, as you can tell. So I think
I
it's
think
really important to kind of be really aware of it, and I do really admire the people that explain this is exactly what I've had done, because it's not fair otherwise on young people who look and think, everyone looks perfect. No, if you're using a filter, actually Norway was one of the first countries to actually ban filters, or you have to disclose that you're using a filter, like #ad, #you're using a filter.
Wow.
Yeah.
Gosh, I didn't know that. I think it's nice. I think that, I don't know if you agree, but there's kind of a trend now going towards actually, being more natural and actually not using filters. And hopefully, I think things will get better and people will be more real in terms of their actual personality online and offline. Let's see where it goes. I guess things possibly could get better.
I hope so.
Yeah,
I really
definitely.
hope so.
So you're clearly a supporter of women in business as well. And as a female businesswoman myself, I know sometimes you have to go against the grain, especially in some previously more male-dominated industries. I know for dentistry, it used to be far more males than females. Now it's interesting, actually, there's more females than males, which is interesting. From your side, because you were, obviously it's a new role, but also previously more male-dominated, how did you find that in terms of going against the grain?
Well, yeah, tech is very, very male-dominated, and I guess in a way, I've had an advantage because, being one of the few female players, I'll notice it when I go to like a car event, or if we're like doing car review, it's 99% of the journalists there are men. Not to mention, the fact that if you're a minority, I mean, it's even less. It's just. It is a little bit crazy, but I think things are changing. This year when I went to Web Summit, it was the first time in Web Summit's history that there was 51% of the attendees were female. It was the first time there were more female than male attendees. So I do feel like it's changing in a really positive way. There aren't as many barriers to entry as there were before. But I mean, there's still some things that I see that make me so sad, because it reminds me of that story I was telling you about the car. Like, have you seen that very famous picture of the summer camp, Daisy? It's like brownies, and so for the boys, they have like lava making, volcano making, you know, all these science classes, men and women, girls and boys science classes. And for girls, it's like how to make nail polish. And like literally one science class, and boys have like 10 to choose from. And I'm like, no wonder there's less women that become engineers or mathematicians. Like no wonder there's less women in STEM, because if you're doing that from really early on, that's the problem that develops later. No wonder. I mean, I have so much respect for people like, you know, Carly Kloss, Coding with Carly. I mean, you know, you have to make it really easy for women. Because otherwise you just don't think you can do it. No, you know, and even if there's not that many role models to look up to,
exactly,
you know, it's even harder.
It needs to change from the root, I guess.
Yeah, definitely.
But you think things are getting better, I guess.
I hope so. You know, I think you know, the more women that we see doing it, it'll really help. But I mean, I meet amazing female founders and entrepreneurs and businesswomen like yourself all the time, which, you know, give me so much hope, because I'm like, you know, this is so great. Like, I love meeting female founders. I have so much respect for them, because I'm just like, you know, this is not easy. It's not easy for anyone, but especially if you're doing it in an industry where, you know, you're like, you know, the only skirt in a room of trousers. It can be really hard. For sure. Getting the investment, getting, you know, being taken seriously. I've always worked in fashion, which is a very female-dominated industry, actually. And it was the first time when I started reviewing tech where I realized, oh my gosh, you know, I am now in a position which I'm sure all my friends who are lawyers in finance, this is what they face every single day. I'd never had that feeling before I started taking tech a bit more seriously and writing tech articles. Wow. But it must be hard, and it is hard.
Yeah, for sure. And it's important we all support each other, which is great. So for those starting out in the industry, is there any advice that you could give them? I know you said you have lots of people who want to intern with you, and lots of people who see you as a mentor. What would be your key piece of advice for them if they're starting up?
I would say, actually, definitely interning is great.
Okay.
Study. Like, the amount of people, especially when I was working at Vogue, they'd be like, how do I get a job at Vogue? And I was like, well, you know, I started a small magazine, we went to a bigger magazine, we went to a bigger magazine. And they're like, oh, well, I just want an internship at Vogue. And I'm like, well, you know, nobody, unless you're very, very good or very, you know, lucky, no one just walks into the front door of Hanover Square. Do you know what I mean? Nobody walks into Vogue House. Like, you've got to start from somewhere. So I'd say start locally. So, you know, is there a local paper or a local radio station that you can intern at? Like, don't just be like, okay, my first internship has to be Harper's Bazaar. Mine certainly wasn't. No. You know, when I was doing my broadcast journalism degree, I worked at, you know, Taunton radio of hospital radio. Like, I was genuinely like,
trying to get as much experience as possible.
Trying to get as much experience as possible, because it's something I really wanted to do. So I'd say, you know, if you're trying to break into the magazine industry, for example, you know, work at a local newspaper first.
Right. Okay.
Try to get the experience there. You know, and then move on to bigger and better things, if that's what you want. And I'd also say, you know, definitely do English as a degree, or journalism degree could really help. I've always believed, like, you know, you can do anything any time in your life if you want to, you know, but apply yourself. Like, you know, if you feel like your writing could be improved, you know, take a writing course. I believe in studying. I do believe in it. Even with something creative like journalism, you know, or, you know, if you want to do a fashion degree, I always think it's not just the super academic studies that need, you know, that
investing in and time and learning from each other. Yeah. Nice. So I have to ask you, as someone who knows everything about tech, if you had to pick 3 tech items that you always carry in your bag during a typical workday as sort of your mini survival kit, what would they be? Whether it's like a, you know, fitness tech, beauty tech, whether it's an app, anything that you can share with us that you would always have with you as part of your kit.
Well, okay, so the tile,
right?
Because I'm always losing my house keys. AirPods, that, you know, I wouldn't say I'm not a loyal user, because I always oscillate between like my Master Dynamic earbuds and my Apple AirPods, but you know, but yeah, definitely a pair of AirPods. And then, I mean, I use my Apple Watch a lot. Obviously an iPhone.
Yeah, yeah.
Obviously. I just think that smartphone's the best thing that ever happened. Like I used to have one of those like
I remember my
diaries.
Right. Oh wow, nice.
Back in the day.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I'm just so happy that the iPhone does everything now. I'd say in terms of apps to stay organized, I use Trello.
Okay.
Every single day.
Yeah.
To like collect my thoughts. And, you know, like make to-do lists, because I've always got like 4 to-do lists on the go. I've got like my personal to-do list, one for the modems, one for my, you know, day job.
So it helps you stay organized
that,
with everything.
That app I find really useful. That one helps me stay organized every day. So I definitely recommend something like that.
Nice.
An organization app.
Nice. Yeah, I know. I can't imagine life without technology. Now, I remember when I got my first phone, it was that massive, like, Nokia. I'm like, thinking it was so cool and amazing. And now, like, wow, can't live without my iPhone.
Have you heard there's actually a trend where people are going for, they're called dumb phoning?
Oh, right.
Like,
to go back to...
Go back to Nokia. To be fair, Snake is such a great game.
Snake is the best game ever. I could play that all day. So in terms of anything upcoming, tell us what we should look out for in terms of technology, like any cool things. You mentioned the Dyson. Is there anything out there that we should keep our eyes peeled for?
Well, there's a rumor that Apple's going to be releasing a car.
Oh.
Yeah. And apparently they're waiting until the technology is good enough for them to have self-driving cars, but I don't know if that's... Yeah, so that's been in the rumor. That's been in the rumor mill for a while.
Well, that might. I mean, when Apple release anything, it's usually amazing.
It's normally amazing and huge. The Dyson headphones, I think you should keep your eye on. For sure.
Okay.
I'm really interested to see how those do actually. And yeah.
So lots on the horizon.
There is. It's a kind of annoyingly is I go to a lot of these like press days for tech companies, but we have to sign NDAs, non-disclosure agreements. So I can't.
So you have it all in your head.
I've got it in my head, but actually, I can talk about a new release. Samsung released their new phone.
Okay.
And that was really, really good. Like the camera's insane. I've never seen a zoom like that.
Nice.
So yeah, check that one out.
Yeah, I mean the cameras just generally. I got the iPhone. It's got that cinematic mode. I took some videos like, wow, this is really cool. It's amazing what we can do now. I think you're right. We need to make the most of technology and use it wisely. Anyway, I know you're super busy and you're off to another event now, so I don't want to keep you longer. Thank you so much for your time. What an interesting conversation. Where can we find you? Tell us more.
So you can follow me at Natalie Salmon and on at the modems and www.themodems.com. So we update it all the time, and I would just love for you to check it out.
Yeah, definitely check it out. Lots of interesting reading. And thank you so much again, and we'll see you again soon at High Street.
Thank you. Can't wait.
Thank you.